to be here tonight and to preside at our 9th annual Hall of Fame ceremony. Tonight, the Chelmsford High School Alumni Association is going to honor 9 more most worthy people. Alumni spanning the years 1937 to 1977. Alumni from Cincinnati, Ohio to Nashua, New Hampshire. From San Francisco, California to Guilford, New Hampshire. From Daytona Beach, Florida to Manchester, Massachusetts. From Wendell, Massachusetts to Chelmsford, Massachusetts. From an elementary school principal to a civic leader. From a research scientist to a very successful businessman. From a consumer product developer to a high school principal. From an environmentalist to a scholar athlete to a chief executive officer. Our Hall of Fame recognizes alumni from all walks of life. We recognize alumni who distinguished themselves while they were in high school. Alumni who have distinguished themselves in their profession. Alumni who have distinguished themselves in their community. We also recognize Chelmsford High School teachers and administrators who, over the years, while at the high school, worked to make our high school, Chelmsford High School, the outstanding educational institution that it is today. The Alumni Association also recognizes individuals and organizations who, over the years, have given generous and continuous support to the students of Chelmsford High School with the Golden Lion Award. Since our very first Hall of Fame induction ceremony in 1991, a few of our Hall of Famers have passed on. I would now like to recognize these great people with a moment of silence. They are Robert Cloud, class of 1931, Carl Olson, class of 1963, Gordon Cochran, class of 1941, George Parkhurst, class of 1932, and Thomas Gallagher from the class of 1955. So would you all please rise so we can have a moment of silence. Thank you. It is now my pleasure to introduce our Alumni Association President and my good friend, Bill Cohane. Bill?
Thank you, Joyce. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the 9th Annual Chelmsford High School Alumni Association Induction Ceremony and Dinner. It is my sincere pleasure and honor to be here again this evening. And if we keep doing this for a few more years, we'll have enough inductees to fill the hall, especially from the class of '63. I want to begin this evening by thanking the Hall of Fame Committee. As always, they've done an outstanding job. To put on an evening such as this takes a lot of hard work, dedication, a lot of hours, a lot of planning. And as always, they have done above and beyond the call of duty. Joe Marquardt, their chairman, and the others will be recognized at the end of the evening. The officers, the directors, and the entire membership of the Hall of Fame offer a heartfelt thank you to the Hall of Fame Committee for your efforts on behalf of our organization. To the many members of our organization, and those of you from our community at large, and of course the family and friends of our inductees, we welcome you this evening and we thank you for attending. It is through your support and attendance of this evening that we're able to honor the inductees with such a great crowd, and it is apropos that we do so. And of course to our inductees, thank you for coming. Some of you have come from long distance, and I'm sure in some hardship in some cases. We appreciate you attending. Your presence here this evening says many things. The obvious is that you are here because of some accomplishments, while a student, a staff member, or a career, or some avocation, some interest. The fact that you chose to attend says something about you and our school and its importance in the lives of so many people. I'd like to believe that the foundation for the successes of former students were developed at Chelmsford High School, and that the education and training we received has prepared all of us well for what we do and how we are successful. I believe that the atmosphere at Chelmsford High School allows good teachers and administrators to be great teachers and administrators. Some individuals take these wonderful opportunities and capitalize on them. This is the reason for our Hall of Fame, to recognize and show appreciation to special people who have done more than most, who have been standouts in their field of endeavor, or their community, or their school. I wanted to sit here this evening with them and offer my congratulations and best wishes for many more years of continued good fortune. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. And now I'd like to introduce the principal of Chelmsford High School, Mr. Steve Meidel. Steve?
It is always a great pleasure to be able to gather each March to celebrate the legacy of Chelmsford High School. And tonight we will hear more testimony to what a difference a town can make when it provides the ingredients necessary to make its students successful lifelong learners. It is particularly nice to see that Ed Quinn has returned for a rematch with this year's banquet chicken. Did you win? We all know the reason we return each year is not the food, or not because we can't say no to George Simonian, but because this evening gives us the true sustenance for our hungry spirits, the recognition of individual achievements whose roots are deeply set in the memories of Chelmsford High School. So while Governor Cellucci and past government officials continue to concoct their recipe for success with such ingredients as a pinch of grants, a pound of testing, a dab of penalties for truancy, and a requirement for uniforms for all, something close to what I would at best refer to as typical institutional fare. Tonight I want you to sample some of the unique spices used for many years to produce the most sought-after cuisine better known as Chelmsford High School alumni. First, there is the challenging curriculum. In recent years, Chelmsford High School has increased its graduation requirements to include a mandatory writing course, 2 years of foreign language, more fine arts along with practical arts requirements, internships with businesses, along with increased hours for instruction. The results are shown this year with our having 12 finalists for merit scholarships, 2 presidential scholars, you can clap, the highest scores in AP exams in our history, 3 students receiving perfect scores in their SATs, and an increasing number of students earning perfect scores on at least one of the SAT-2, formerly called the achievement test. Our class of '99 has proven its success with early acceptances to Harvard, MIT, Tufts, Dartmouth, Boston College, and Boston University. We have increased the number of students on our honor rolls, and our students are performing significantly above the state averages in SATs and the new state test, the MCAS. But the most important thing is our students are realizing their special gifts. Another essential ingredient is a talented and dedicated staff. Recently, Ann O'Brien of our Social Studies Department received a scholarship to attend a symposium on media at Harvard University. Math instructor Andy Pasquale continues to write articles in addition to new editions of his popular college textbook for calculus. Rebecca Nordengren of our math department and John Mostow of both our math and science department were invited to present their integrated math and science approach at the New Hampshire Science Teachers Conference. Deborah Vanacek-Cole, a new member of our English department, has created a public speaking course and revived our speech and debate club, assisting 2 of our students to win the local Lions Club speech contest. Chris Chu, Barry Hazard, Andy Pasquale have joined a list of faculty members recognized as influential teachers by students now attending Tufts and MIT. And our 3 deans, Jeff Doherty, Bernie Battle, and Al Thomas, continue to believe in our students and, most importantly, convince these students to believe in themselves. The next ingredient is a varied number of offerings in extracurricular, or as George Betsis always referred to them, as co-curricular activities. Our marching band was invited this year to lead the New Year's Eve parade in Paris. Last year it was London. We had 25 students compete in Boston Globe Art Festival. 4 students received Gold Key Awards, 3 received Silver Key Awards, with 2 students having their portfolios sent on to the national competition. Our Theater Guild, performing an original play written by one of our students, won first place in the regional competition with awards for acting, lighting, sound, and for best written script, and is now one of 14 schools competing in the state competition. Our junior achievement team placed 2nd and 3rd in the Cyber Challenge at MIT. Our DECA Club had 78 students compete in the regional, and we have, I believe it's 12 students going on for the national competition. Our Jets team placed first in a competition at UMass Lowell. Our student council was honored as a medalist for its outstanding school and community programs at their state conference. Our calculus team is #1 in the state, and our students continue to offer their assistance and talents in raising money for the homeless, the needy, as well as organizing the senior games and providing concerts for our senior citizens in the town. And I believe our mock trial team is #1 going into the finals. Ed Quinn was hoping he'd be against us, but I guess that's not going to happen. But I'm sure we would have remained #1. The power of the mic. Our athletic teams, under the dedicated and creative leadership of our athletic director, Jack Fletcher, continue to capture titles, most recently state champions in wrestling, Merrimack Valley champions in field hockey, girls and boys cross country, boys soccer, basketball, hockey, boys and girls swimming, and girls track. And now for our most secret ingredient, the continued support from our community, in particular our alumni. I attended the boys basketball banquet last night and listened to Danny Roach, an alumnus, as guest speaker, provide our present students with such wisdom on the value of sports in everyday life. I'm proud to announce tonight that our senior class has once again chosen an alumnus, Ed Mayberry, class of '81, and a member of the Alumni Hall of Fame, to be this year's graduation speaker. Alumni now add the above-mentioned ingredients as members of our teaching and coaching staff, town officials, and as members of our community who are there to help with fundraising, such as our 24-hour relay, offering various scholarships, and once again, in difficult times, such as the recent death of one of our students. All these ingredients make a feast fit for today's and tomorrow's person of success. There is an old Norwegian saying, the deeper the roots, the taller and more impressive the tree. Now, while George Simonian and George Betsis may claim this is an Armenian or Greek saying, I'm sure they and all of you gathered here tonight will agree, Chelmsford High School, through its deep alumni roots, stands proudly above the other trees in our state and even national forest. And for all the time I am principal, this tall tree will be imaged as a beautiful Norwegian maple. Thank you.
Dynamite. And now, again, with a great deal of pleasure and pride, I'd like now to introduce the 1999 members of the Chelmsford High School Alumni Association Hall of Fame. Joyce Barnard, class of 1977. At Chelmsford High School, she was a member of the yearbook staff. She was an active member of her church youth group. There she helped organize Big Kate's Coffee House for teens at a time when it was very essential. She was a member of the Girl Scouts of America. She was heavily involved in outdoor activities with the family, such as mountain climbing, sailing, cycling, and rock climbing. Her college career. She graduated cum laude from the University of Massachusetts at Amherst in 1981 with a Bachelor of Science degree with a major in animal science. She financed her own education with grants, fellowships, and scholarships. Graduated with a PhD in the biomedical sciences in 1990 from the University of Massachusetts Medical School in Worcester. She completed postdoctoral studies at the University of Bern in Switzerland from 1990 through 1994. Her professional career. 1981 to 1982, a research assistant at Brandeis University. From 1982 to 1984, a research assistant at the Harvard Medical School. From 1984 to 1986, a graduate research associate at the University of Massachusetts Medical School. From 1986 to 1990, a graduate research associate at the Worcester Foundation in Shrewsbury, Massachusetts. 1990 to 1994, postdoctoral research, University of Bern, with an emphasis on protein biochemistry, molecular biology with DNA screening, cloning, and sequencing. 1994 to 1996, postdoctoral research at the Worcester Foundation in Shrewsbury, with an emphasis on molecular endocrinology, and established and managed the molecular biology laboratory there. From 1996 to 1997, worked in Marlborough, Massachusetts at the Biosepra Incorporated Company as a scientist, established and managed the Molecular Biology Project. Her research involved the development of nucleic acid purification devices. From 1997 to the present time, she's a research scientist for Genentech in San Francisco, developing molecular and cellular biology applications in cancer research. Publications. Has authored and co-authored numerous research articles and abstracts. To name just a few, and bear with me, even though I'm an old biology teacher, I had some problems with some of these terms myself. Hormonal regulation of prostaglandin production by the rhesus monkey endometrium. 1. Plasmid DNA purification. Characterization of a membrane-bound metalloendoprotease of rat C6 glioblastoma cells. I could go on with many others, but I'll leave it there. The girl is heavy in some dynamite research. Her professional affiliations. She's a member of the American Association for the Advancement of Science. She's a member of the Association of Women in Endocrinology. She's a member of the Association for Women in Science. And she's a member of the Chelmsford High School Alumni Association. Her family includes her husband, William, CHS class of 73, and a brand new son, Nicholas. With a great deal of pleasure, I'd like to present Joyce Barnard.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you, George. And thank you to the Board of Directors of the Alumni Association, and thank you to the Hall of Fame members. And I want to thank you all, and especially Chelmsford High School educators, and especially my parents, for instilling in me the sense of adventure that has inspired me to continue on and move to the heights I have reached. Chelmsford High School, I have always been impressed by the caliber of the educators and of the student body. Myself, I was a quiet little mouse, a bit tongue-tied, and that's how I still am, I have to admit. But it has not kept me from working through a lot of blood, sweat, and tears to get to where I am today. And I am very proud to belong to a company that right now is putting on the market drugs that are combating cancer, breast cancer, and cardiovascular diseases. And it is just an exciting place to be. So I would love to be a part of the inspiration that would continue on to the young people in Chelmsford High School today to reach where I have gone. I have to say that one of my greatest adventures have been that my education has brought me towards was actually the Swiss Alps, where I have accomplished some of the 4,000 meter mountains there, which wasn't also mentioned in my bibliography. But enough of that. I don't want to take too much time. I did not really prepare a written speech. But who I would really like to thank, actually, are my neighbors, the McCurseys and the Sinsavages. Cynthia Sinsavage Wood, for her loyalty, her friendship that has brought me through from Chelmsford High School all the way until now to a newborn son, and she still educates me in that part. And most of all to Jane McCursey, who has always been there every step of the way, every woe and worry I've had, she's just gone ahead and said, "Go girl." So that is really who I have to thank very much the most. And but last and not least is my husband and son, for the love that they give me to continue on in my research. And I hope that that one or more of you might benefit from that we're putting on. So remember Genentech and the new drug that we put out against breast cancer, Herceptin, has just recently been approved by the FDA. So I want you to all, if that might be of some help to you all. And thank you, George, for this honor. Thank you all for this honor. I got a call. I have to tell this little story. George Simone called me at about 8 o'clock on a Sunday morning in San Francisco, where we now live. And at first when I heard, "This is George Simone," and I said, "Okay, what do you want?" And then he said, "Well, we're honoring you with this. We're inducting you into the Hall of Fame." I'm like, "Wow." And I thought you were just calling me for money. But I understand that comes later now. Well, anyways, this is actually quite an honor, and it's actually the closest I think I'll be coming to the Nobel Prize, in which they call you at 5 a.m. from Sweden. This is 8 a.m. from Chelmsford. Thank you very much.
I didn't see it as a problem because it was 11 o'clock at home. George Betts is principal. His high school career, graduated from Lowell High School, 1948. He was an officer in the boys' regiment. He was a member of the varsity basketball team. His college career, graduated from Salem State College in 1955 with a Bachelor of Science degree in education. He was the class president his junior year. He was the yearbook editor his senior year. Graduated from Boston University with a Master's in Education degree in 1957. Was a member of the Scholastic Honor Society, Delta Pi Epsilon. Postgraduate studies at Harvard University and the National Academy of School Executives. Military career. Served in the United States Army from 1952 to 1954 as a chief radio operator in the Signal Corps way up in Alaska. Professional career. From 1955 to 1957, Holliston High School. He was a business education teacher, business education department head, and he was a varsity basketball coach. From 1957 to 1992 at Chelmsford High School in 3 different roles. First, from 1957 to 1967, he was a business education teacher, chairman of the business education department. He was the advisor to the class of 1958. He was advisor to the yearbook a number of years, and advisor of the student council for a number of years. From 67 to 88, he's the vice principal of the high school. While in position, he was appointed first director of the evening school. He introduced the administrative internship program, designed and implemented the flexible modular schedule used by the high school from 1972 to 1988. During the school year of 1973 to 1974, co-chaired an intensive in-service program to prepare the staff for the new house plan high school, while the high school was on double sessions with over 1,700 students and only 2 administrators. Chaired the committee that introduced the data processing department to the Chelmsford Public Schools. introduced the field-based master's program with Fitchburg State College to foster professional development of the staff. 73 members of the staff graduated from that and have benefited from this program. He introduced the Art Bureau program at Chelmsford High School. From 1988 to 1992, he was the principal. Successfully converted the high school to 3 houses due to decreasing enrollment. Co-authored and supervised the digital CHS Engineers to Education program, a 5-year program resulting in hundreds of engineers from around the country changing professions, obtaining their master's degrees from Harvard, BU, BC, and Fitchburg State. He retired in 1992 after 35 years of service to Chelmsford High School. His community involvement: American Cancer Society, state and local officer, American Hellenic Education Progressive Association, the Hellenic American School Committee Chairman for 4 terms, Holy Trinity Church Board of Trustees for 2 terms, Lowell Heart Association, Lowell Human Services Commission, former director, Lowell Mental Health Association, a former director, Merrimack Valley Elder Services, a past director. His professional affiliations: Chelmsford High School Faculty Association, Chelmsford Schools Administrators Association, Merrimack Valley Secondary Principals Association, where he served as president in 1986, 87, and 88. Massachusetts Teachers Association, the National Education Association, and a charter member of the Chelmsford High School Alumni Association. His family includes his wife Priscilla, 3 daughters, Star, Georgiana, and Dana, and his son Dimitri. 8 grandchildren: Crystal, Danny, Alex, Stephen, Emily, Victoria, Christina, and Priscilla. On the dedication page of the 1963 yearbook, it says, "We are most grateful because he has never sought our thanks. With great happiness, we dedicate the 1963 Lion to Mr. George J. Betzes, who has won our respect and affection by his diligent work in our behalf, by his deep concern for our welfare, by his sympathetic support in our problems, and by his sincere encouragement in all our undertakings." That was true in 1963, and that was the way it was in 1992 when he retired. My colleague and my friend, George Betzes.
Thank you, George. George did a lot of research. Fellow members of the 1999 Class Hall of Fame, ladies and gentlemen, I don't dwell on the past too often or too long, but this evening it gives me a wonderful opportunity to reflect on the past. I was very fortunate to have been an employee of the Chelmsford Public Schools and work with such a supportive community with many outstanding educators who have produced the people that we are honoring this evening in the Hall of Fame. I started my career in the mid-1950s and ended in the early 1990s. During that time, Chelmsford was experiencing a big population explosion. They went from a population town of 10,000 to a population of 30,000. My first assignment was at the high school on Billerica Road, which is currently the town administrative offices, and my classroom is the administrative suite of the town manager. From there, we moved to the high school on North Road. That is now the C. Edith McCarthy Middle School. No sooner did we occupy that building than we had to add additional classrooms, and we were eventually forced into double sessions. I ended my career at the high school on Richardson Road, the current high school. The reason I walked you through those 3 buildings is because the people that we are honoring this evening went to one of those 3 schools. And I want to assure them that their opinion and their impression of Chelmsford High School is one and the same. We as educators work hard and diligently to provide the students with the same student life, student experiences, and outstanding educational experiences that provided for their particular needs. I'm very proud to have been a part of that. And thank you very much.
Evelyn J. Demarais, class of 1947, at Chelmsford High School. Member of the Junior Red Cross Club. She was the president her sophomore and junior years. She was a member of the band, member of the Glee Club. She was a participant in the March of Dimes concerts and Glee Club concerts. She was a participant in the annual band concerts. She was a member of the Athletic Association for 4 years. Member of the varsity basketball team her junior and senior years. And those two teams, those 2 years, were 26-3. She was a member of the softball team. Her college career: graduated from Boston College in 1951 with a Bachelor of Science degree. Graduated from Boston College in 1958 with a Master's in Education degree. She completed postgraduate work in early childhood education at Tufts University and at Harvard University. Professional career: from 1951 to 1953, taught grades 2 and 3 in Amherst, Massachusetts. 1953 to 1958, taught grades 1 and 2 in Wilmington, Massachusetts. Then from 55 to 58, she was a teaching principal in Wilmington, Massachusetts. And in 1958 to 1968, she was a district supervising principal of 4 elementary schools in Wilmington. Then in 1968 through 1990, she was the principal of the Harrington School here in Chelmsford. In fact, the first principal. While at the Harrington, developed an administrative team consisting of team leaders from each grade level, specialists, and principal as a shared school governance decision-making body. Team teaching at each grade level with an elected team leader responsible for scheduling and instruction. Established an open principal's office to provide daily access for students, teachers, and parents. She established a Parents Advisory Council to meet regularly with the principal to volunteer services in classrooms and serve as advisor in school budgetary and governing decisions. The school became a charter member as an IGE school. That's an individually guided education school developed at the University of Wisconsin. Piloted individualized math program with emphasis on manipulatives and timely student progress procedures. Piloted the National Science Curriculum Improvement Study. Piloted social studies teacher-developed kits that were later patented and sold commercially. Led the system in establishing the readiness class, the brainchild of the Giselle Institute of Yale University, which acknowledged developmental differences in early childhood. Chaired regular parent meetings for the purpose of seeking advice and sharing problems and progress within the school. Proposed and gained parental support and involvement for the creation and support of a safe and physically demanding school playground. Established an extensive professional library for the staff and provided intensive in-service education for the entire staff during early release days. Something quite new in Chelmsford in that day, and quite a hard sell, I might add. Under her leadership, the Harrington became a modified, non-graded school using the team teaching concept and the guidelines of an IGE school. The Harrington was on the cutting edge. Her professional affiliations: member of the Chelmsford Schools Administrators Association, member of the Massachusetts Elementary School Principals Association, member of the Massachusetts Teachers Association, and the National Education Association. She was a member of the Association for Supervision and Curriculum Development, member of the Early Childhood Association, member of the Institute for Development of Educational Activities, IDEA. She's a life member of the Chelmsford High School Alumni Association. Her community participation: she's a Girl Scout leader, leader of training at Camp Runnels, assistant director, late 40s and early 60s, member and the chairperson of the Association for Battered Women of Greater Lowell, and has been very much involved in her church council as a church council member. In the 1947 yearbook, next to her picture, there are many statements. Let me quote just a couple. Pepsodent smile, ambitious, willing to assume extra tasks. A pleasant face is a good letter of recommendation. And on a personal note, I'd like to thank Evelyn for helping educate my 3 kids. Evelyn Demarais.
Well, now, when I was listening to the folks that came before me, I was thinking, my, what a lazy person you have been. But then listening to George, I say, son of a gun, I guess there were things that were happening. I want to thank the committee so very, very heartily for honoring me. I am so proud to be a member of this group. I think the opportunities that were given us all at the Harrington School reflects some of the folks who are here now, having been students, which is amazing to me, or staff members and parents. I thank all of the folks who gave so much of themselves, and I'm sure it will continue because that's Chelmsford school system. I thank you all again.
Edward A. Fox, Jr., class of 1942. At Chelmsford High School. Class salutatorian. Member of the National Honor Society. Member of the orchestra all 4 years. President of the Chemistry Club. Treasurer of the Slide Rule Club. That's quite a thing. He was a participant in the senior show. He was a participant in the stunt night. Member of the executive committee of the senior class. And winner of the Harvard Book Prize. College career. Graduated from MIT with a Bachelor of Science degree in 1950 with a major in mechanical engineering. Graduated from Harvard University in 1975 with a certificate of advanced management. Military career. United States Army Air Corps, 1943 to 47. He was a pilot in the 5th Air Force flying B-25s. Served in the Pacific, Japan, and China. He flew the first administrative aircraft for General George Marshall, operating from Nanking and Peking and extending to all of China, Manchuria, and Outer Mongolia. He was awarded the Air Medal. From 1951 to 1953, he was in the United States Air Force Reserves as a captain. He published United States Air Force reports on flight test work done on acceptance testing of the all-jet Boeing B-47 Stratojet, 3 peas in a pod, and high-altitude flight testing of the P-51 Mustang. He was a test pilot. Professional career. In 1950, he went to work for Procter & Gamble in the engineering division. In 1964, became the Associate Director of Product Development. In 1976, Corporate Manager of Quality Standards for 54 Procter & Gamble plants. From 1950 to 1994, his research team developed dozens of Procter & Gamble products, such as Crest toothpaste, Duncan Hines cake mixes, Old Spice, Folgers coffee, Scope, Pringles potato chips, Ivory liquid, Joy, Jiffy peanut butter, Crisco liquid, Clorox, and on and on. The list looks like something my wife takes when she goes to the grocery store. President of Plastics Recycling Foundation from 1990 to 1993. This is an international consortium of 50 companies managing university research on recycling of plastics. His awards and recognition. He was presented awards at the White House by President Bush in 1991 and again in 1992 for his work in recycling. He's the only recipient to receive the award twice. He delivered keynote speeches at international meetings of 20 to 30 nations, from London to New York to Caracas to San Francisco. In 1993, he was elected to the National Packaging Hall of Fame, and there are only 20 inductees. His community involvement. Chairman and Advisory Council of the Catherine Booth Home in Cincinnati for unwed teenage mothers from 1979 to 1983, and he's been on the Advisory Council from 1983 to the present time. Chairman of the United Way campaign for 8,000 retirees of Procter & Gamble from 1995 to the present time. President, Board of Managers of the Vineyard Hills Association from 1979 to 1989. Board of Managers, Adams Place Condominium Association from 1994 to the present time. And he's a member of the Chelmsford High School Alumni Association. His family includes his wife Patricia and daughter Ann. I'd like to read a few of the statements that appear alongside his picture in the 1942 yearbook. Exceptionally brilliant student, long, tedious hours of study, Mr. Ambition himself. Mr. Edward Fox.
Thank you, George. First, I have to say that your enthusiasm is warm and welcoming and contagious. Thank you. Next, I have to say that this board of directors has got to be a bunch of brave people. They take a nice microphone like this and a nice podium and a wonderfully big and responsive audience such as you, and they turn it over to an old geezer like myself. And you know, the trouble with old geezers is that they reminisce endlessly. And for you wonderful younger people here, I have to say that the only reason that old geezers reminisce about is that they've got a lot to reminisce about. So I ask your indulgence. But it's a delight to come back and feel the proud history of the town of Chelmsford. And I say this as I recall the disclaimer that says you can't go back. Well, I think one of the things that this wonderful alumni organization here does is make it possible for us to come back. And earlier this evening here, in looking about, I noticed that there are some things that remain the same in Chelmsford. There are some other things that change. And on the note of change, you probably have also noted that we all tend to think that our contemporaries are the ones who look older, who change, and somehow, out of some miracle, each one of us thinks we don't change. Well, I had my comeuppance on that. Here, I met a classmate of mine that I hadn't seen for 57 years. And when I introduced myself to her, she said, the first thing she said was, "Why, Edward, I thought you were one of our teachers." So much for this lion's pride. Age aside, I'll try to be brief and to the point because the hour is getting late. But I have to tell you that once I had a very wise mentor in business who said to me, if you're ever fortunate enough to be presented with an award in a public forum, especially if there are other recipients, for heaven's sakes, just get up, say thank you, and sit down. And your audience will love you for that. Well, I thought that was good advice, and when I found I was coming here several weeks ago, I contacted Hank Zaberg here and asked him what he thought of this mentor's advice for this occasion, and Hank was pretty brief with me too. But what he said is, this Alumni Association does not accept any cop-outs. On the other hand, don't make your talk too long, and don't read from any notes that you have prepared. So Hank, this is to you. But I'm here not to talk about me, but to talk about you. This Alumni Association is spectacularly successful. If measurement were available, I am certain that you would stand alone, head and shoulders above anybody else in the field for your accomplishments. But I speak from bedrock truth when I say that things like this don't just happen by themselves. They take leaders. And we're very fortunate to have leaders here like Joyce, like Hank Zaberg, like this board of directors and the committees that work with them. the principals of our school. And to, not the least of which, is the class agents who work to hold this fabric together over the months and the years. So I think we ought to be mindful of the great amount of work that these leaders do. It was Hank Zabrick who said in some of his recent writings, leadership always exacts pain, and these leaders know what pain is. They do a lot of work. And on a more solemn note, I would like to remind you that my class graduated from Chelmsford High School in the summer of '42. That was a remarkable time to be 18 years old. And soon, some of these graduates, some from my class, and some of the teachers of our high school soon gave up their lives so that we may enjoy the kind of freedom that we have here tonight. The world asked that these people grow up in a hurry, and they responded with a sense of duty. They gave their lives in some faraway place as they entered a different Hall of Fame. And so I think that we should, with dignity, remember these people who gave their lives for us. Last, I could not leave here without commenting and commending the teachers that we had during the years I was here. And I'm convinced that teachers, all teachers everywhere, have a much greater effect on their students than the teachers ever dare to realize. And I said this in a letter to the Lions Pride more than a year ago, that in my experience, the person who did best in this respect was Miss Christine Booth. Now, I took 4 years of Latin with Miss Booth, but she taught more than Latin. She taught lessons of life, how to live. And she used the stories from Caesar and from Virgil to teach these lessons. And I have never forgotten them, and I don't think I ever will. Last, on a personal note, because she comes from a distance, I would like to introduce to you my wife, Patty, who's sitting over here with my sister, Virginia, and some of her family. I just want to tell you that I met Patty in Cincinnati now 49 years ago, and life has not been quite the same with me since then. But she is the reason that I am here tonight. So Patty, I would just like you to stand for a minute. I want to say for all of us that it is a deep honor to be here tonight, to be at this meeting, to see you wonderful people assembled to help this association succeed. Thank you very much.
Edgar P. George, class of 1937, at Chelmsford High School, member of the chemistry club, class treasurer his sophomore year. He was an honor graduate, member of the varsity baseball team for 3 years, member of the varsity football team for all 4 years, selected to the all-suburban team his junior and senior years. His senior team, the team went 6-1-2. Military career, served with the United States Air Force from 1942 to 1946 as a sergeant. Was an instructor in a Link trainer, which was the early version of the present simulators. And then he was assigned as a B-29 control turret gunner. His professional career, employed by the John Hancock Insurance Company for 38 years. served as division manager, department head, group department director, director of field accounting administration, vice president of group pension department, convention speaker and toastmaster at special events, insurance accounting and statistical association committee member, and served as a panelist and speaker at conventions in New Orleans, Chicago, and New York. Retired in 1976 as an executive vice president. Then he became an insurance advisor, trustee for a small insurance business. From 1940 to 1956, he was a sports editor and columnist for the Chelmsford News Weekly. And in that role, he served as Toastmaster at several sports and booster banquets. Community involvement. Chelmsford Little League. He was on the original organizational committee and served as its first secretary-treasurer. He was on the Chelmsford Boosters Club. He was on the organizing committee of that organization. At the All Saints Episcopal Church of Chelmsford, he was a Sunday school superintendent, youth leader, and senior warden of the church. And then down south, the Southminster Presbyterian Church of Daytona Beach, he was a ruling elder, served as the chairman of the Stewardship and Finance Committee. Cornerstone Evangelical Presbyterian Church of Daytona Beach, ruling elder for 6 years, and he was the chairman of the building committee, director and overseer of the church construction, of which he's very proud. He's the current business manager. Florida National Presbyterians, Ministerial Vocation Committee in 1996. He's currently on the nominating committee. Presently, he organizes and serves as an escort on 1 to 6 day travel tours for seniors that takes them to Nashville, Cypress Gardens, Myrtle Beach, etc. His civic involvement. Selectman, Town of Chelmsford from 1956 to 1962. He was on the Finance Committee here in town. Municipal Sewer System Study Committee, Town of Chelmsford. Served as the chairman and spokesperson. And once you know it, we're finally getting to it. And he's a member of the Chelmsford High School Alumni Association. His family includes his wife, Shirley, Chelmsford High School class of 37, 2 sons, Gary, Chelmsford High School class of 63, and David. 3 grandchildren, Victoria, Stephen, and Michael, and 1 great-grandchild, Quante. I give you Edgar George.
Thank you, George. And this is a real thrill for me to be up here. Of course, at my age, it's a thrill to be anywhere. It is, in fact. There's a couple of things I should mention at this point, George. I understand that the rationale, incidentally, I'm the old geezer that he was talking about. You're really going to get it now. You know, I understand that the seating arrangement here has to be done very methodically, and it has to be done apparently alphabetically. Jerry Hardy is a great guy. I love him dearly. But you don't put an 80-year-old beside a guy selling burial vaults and cemeteries. Trauma center. Old age really isn't that bad, however. There are some things that are great about it. You go in the grocery store and somebody wants to carry out your bundles for you. Down and they tell them most of the bundle boys are older than I Because you get in spots where you're standing on the edge of a street corner and somebody wants to help you across and you don't want to go. You also sometimes are walking in the mall and you get a little bit uncertain as to which direction and where you want to go next, and somebody comes up and says, "Do the people from the home know you're in here?" It is indeed a real honor to be here. It's an honor to be on the same dais with this group of inductees here at this point. Clearly, after I hear all their stories, I wonder how in the world they got here. I did challenge George and say, "Have you run out of names?" when he called me. I also told him I couldn't come. You don't know what it's like until John Simonian tells you you've got to come. So I'm here and we're flying out tomorrow morning to go back for a bus trip on Monday. I truly am blessed. I have my wife Shirley, as George said, class of 37. We were classmates together. Frankly, we were holding hands when I was in the 8th grade in grammar school at the Westland School. So Shirley has endured roughly 67 years with me, and she needs to... Any of you that really know me knows that's a real test to last that long. And she has just been my right hand, left hand. I love her dearly. Would you stand up, Shirley, just so they can get a shot? Now, to the business of Chelmsford High School. Hearing Principal Idell give the story of everything that's going on now, I feel a little like I came out of a cave. In 1937, the school was what is now the offices, town offices up on Bill Ricker Road. But it was only half of the building that's there now. We had no gymnasium. The back part of that hall was not there at all. I can recall playing football there. And at the end of the half, those of you that go by that particular area, you know where the Little League fields are and all that sort of stuff. You were down in that low level, and at the end of the half, after your butt was already dragging, you had to run 60 feet up a hill to get up to the hall up above, where you laid down on the cold concrete because we didn't have locker rooms or anything, and then the coach would tell you how lousy you'd been in the first half. Then you'd turn around and race back down the hill to get back to the second half. And it always amazed me that 30 or 35 guys could run down that hill without falling all over each other. But we used to make it pretty regularly. During the football season, well, first of all, at that time, that was back in the dark days when they had no such thing as offense, defense, platoons, or anything like that. My last 3 years as a varsity player at that point, I never got a chance to sit on the bench. And I'm telling you, you could be pretty worn out by the time the season was along. Had a fabulous coach. George Knightley was just a great, great guy. Obviously, very few here have ever heard or know of George Knightley, but he was great at discipline. He was great at teaching you coordination, cooperation, fellowship. Just a wonderful man. To tell you the truth, I believe that football is probably the finest sport in terms of teaching you how to get along with each other. You realize it takes 11 guys. Each one of them has to do their job. One fails, the team fails. And it's a great sport to make you grow up kind of fast. I remember George Knightley, and I will never forget. Now, there's another reason maybe why I'll never forget him. George Knightley had a system called laps. Now, what that really meant was on the practice field, when you started horsing around or fooling around and not taking things too seriously, and I've been doing that all my life, George would say, take a lap. Now, take a lap at this point didn't mean lay down. It meant run around the football field, the entire perimeter of the football field. I swear that during every football season, I spent at least half of my practice time running around that field. So I can remember George for that purpose as well. Another thing that brings me to the Chelmsford High School education part of the program, like I say, it certainly doesn't compare with the methods and the programs that are in existence now. But let me give you an example of how I think that it served me extremely well. I started off at the John Hancock as a delivery boy. And at the point that I became a vice president there, the company had 22,000 employees. We were the 10th largest corporation in America in terms of assets. This was a big company. There were roughly 32 vice presidents or senior officers, chief executive officer, that type of thing. And primarily because the operations were broken into a great many segments. When I was elected vice president at that company, I was the only officer with just a high school education. And I consider that a real tribute to the Chelmsford High School program. They taught me, I learned well, and I am very proud to have been a part of that. During that process, I also learned one fairly vital message, if you will, that it's nice to be important, but it's much more important to be nice. And I believe that. Finally, and George is saying, thank God. And that's what I'm going to do. You know, a lot of you go through this business of the little prayer of now I lay me down to sleep, you know. But most of us learn, dear Lord, wake me up before I die. I'm one that has been woken up. I love the Lord, and truthfully, everything that I am or whatever has been accomplished through me is by the grace of God. And I thank Him. Thank you.
Gerald L. Hardy, class of 1954. At Chelmsford High School, class officer all 4 years, vice president of this class his senior year. He's a member of the band all 4 years. He is a talent show participant. Member of the softball team, his senior football team, his senior year. Member of the Junior Red Cross Club all 4 years. Member of the class dance committee all 4 years. He is the co-recipient of the Bernie Larkin Award his senior year. His college career: attended Northeastern University from 1954 to 1959 as a participant in the co-op program and graduated with a Bachelor of Science degree in Business Administration in 1959. He was on the Dean's List in 56 and 59. He was a member of the Army ROTC Signal Corps Division. His military career: served in the Signal Corps of the United States Army as a second lieutenant, and after his discharge remained in the reserves for 8 more years. His professional career: joined his father in the family burial vault business upon completion of his military obligation. At the age of 24, he assumed full responsibility of the business due to his father's failing health. He became actively involved with trade associations and was instrumental in establishing the Massachusetts Burial Vault Association and served as its president for 4 years. Joined the National Concrete Burial Vault Association in '61 and served on the Board of Governors for 12 consecutive years and was elected as president in 1971. Was appointed executive director in 1987 and served through 1992. Because of his past experience and extensive knowledge pertaining to national cemeteries and Veterans Administration policies, he and an associate have been invited to testify before the Congressional Committee on Veterans Affairs in Washington, D.C. on several occasions. When he assumed ownership of the Hardy Vault Company, the business located in Lowell and was an independent manufacturer of concrete burial vaults serving the Lowell greater area. In 1978, the company became a licensed dealer with Doric Concrete Products of Marshville, Illinois. In 1986, the business was incorporated to include his 2 sons, and the name was changed to Hardy Doric Incorporated. In 1993, the operation was moved to Chelmsford and now serves all of northeastern Massachusetts and southern New Hampshire. He serves on the board of directors of Doric Products and has been the secretary-treasurer of this board for 4 consecutive terms. His community involvement: during his high school days, he played in the Chelmsford Auxiliary Police Band under the direction of Basil Larkin. He has been a cemetery commissioner since 1974 and has served as its chairman on several occasions. The state grant for renovating and preservation of the forefathers' burial ground was begun under his chairmanship. Following the death of their sonship, the Hardys established a scholarship in his name Daniel Webster College, where Chip was a student. He holds membership in the Chelmsford Rotary Club and the Faith Home for Children, and maintains a very strong commitment to the Merrimack Valley Goodwill Industries. He is a life member of the Chelmsford High School Alumni Association. His family includes his wife Sheila, 3 sons, Chip, Chelmsford High School class of 1978, passed away in 1980. Robert, Neshoba Tech class of 81, Jeffrey, CHS class of 1982. Jerry has 4 grandchildren, Sarah, Christine, Rachel, and Meredith. In the 1954 yearbook, beside his picture, it says, again among many things, Chelmsford's Bebop King. Down-to-earth future in burial vaults. It does. Success is assured. I give you Gerald Hunt.
I think Edgar really set me up on this one. You see. But I'm going to tell you, Edgar, I'm going to be the last guy to let you down. Last year at the induction banquet, I sat where you sat, and a classmate of mine was a Hall of Famer. His name was John Flynn. So I had a chance to speak to John, and I said to John, I said, tell me, John, what have you been doing all these years? Well, he said, after high school, I went to college, and then I went to law school and became a lawyer. I said, wow, that's great. Then I went out to Utah and became a professor of law. I said, oh, that's wonderful. And he says, you know, I advised the Senate on antitrust law. I said, oh, my goodness. But he said, you know, my crowning achievement was I argued in front of the Supreme Court. And I said, big deal. And he said, Jerry, what do you mean, big deal? I said, you argued in front of the Supreme Court? He said, yes. Well, I said, I argue in front of my wife once a week. And I'll tell you, I'd rather argue in front of Sandra Day O'Connor than Sheila Hines. And for you folks who are married, you know exactly what I'm talking about. When George called me a couple months ago and said I was going to be inducted into the Hall of Fame, I started reflecting. I said, my goodness, how did I get there? And I reflected back to many years ago when I was a young man, and I was at a convention, and another young man came up to me and said, Jerry, how come you're president of this association, and you're on the board of this association, and you're secretary-treasurer of this company? And I was kind of taken back. I didn't know how to answer him. And I kind of blurted out, I said, I guess I said yes. Well, this young man went back to Minnesota, and I do not take credit for this at all. He became the mayor of his community, but he and his wife adopted 11 multiracial children, some with physical challenges. Dick said yes. And when I stand up here on this dais, and I came back from a trip the other day, and I opened up the Lowell Sun, and there was a great article about Evelyn Demarais. She has said yes. When I look at and think about George Simone, I go back a little way with George. He's a little older than I am. But his best friend was my older cousin. And we all know what he has done academically and for Chelmsford. But people respect him and love him. And why do they do that? Because he says yes. And especially when he says yes to Lucy. But I look out at this audience, and I see a lot of people I recognize. I see people who work on Southwell Park. They say yes. I see the selectmen who run this town. And incidentally, if I may digress a minute, one of your selectmen, Tom Warren, I had him in class when I taught at the University of Lowell. George didn't mention that. But, you know, and if Tom does something wrong, he slept that night during that lecture. But George said yes. And when I look out at your audience and I see so many people, like I said, the selectmen who work hard for the town, finance committee people, school committee people, Southwell Park people, I know people involved in scouts, they all say yes. And you know, you all have one thing in common. You don't do it for glory, you don't do it for money, and you don't do it for fame. You do it because it's right. So I pledge to you this evening, I will continue to try to honor this award that you've given to me by saying yes. Not for money, not for fame, because it's right. Thank you very much.
Her college career, graduated in 1949 from Simmons College with a Bachelor of Science degree with a major in home economics. She was a member of the Outing Club, participating in skiing, biking, and mountain climbing. Professional career in 1949, worked for a short time as a dietitian at New England Deaconess Hospital. 1950, began work in a medical research laboratory at Harvard Medical School for a gastroenterologist. Was part of a team that spent several years studying the causes of ulceration of the stomach. In 1963, the lab was moved to MIT, where she continued to work until 1966. Her community involvement. In 1961, she and her husband began becoming very actively involved in land conservation in Wendell, Massachusetts, and other nearby communities in the Connecticut River watershed. At first, they bought 235 acres of land in Wendell, in the watershed of the Whetstone Brook, for a wildlife sanctuary, and over the next few years acquired land from the abutters amounting to close to 1,300 acres and named the sanctuary Whetstone Wood. In 1970, in order to permanently protect Whetstone Wood, over 1,000 acres were given to the Connecticut River Watershed Council. During the 70s and early 80s, another 288 acres were acquired and added to the Whetstone Wood Sanctuary. In 1991, ownership of the sanctuary was transferred over to the Massachusetts Audubon Society. With the help of interested abutters and neighbors, another 451 acres have been added, so the sanctuary now contains over 2,000 acres. It adjoins the Wendell State Forest and is now a part of a wildlife corridor running from the Quabbin Reservoir through the conservation lands of 4 communities, where it ends on Mount Toby State Reservation near the Connecticut River. Her memberships: Massachusetts Audubon Society, Connecticut River Watershed Council, Millers River Watershed Council, Mount Grace Land Conservation Trust, the Valley Land Fund, the Sierra Club, the Natural Resources Defense Council, the New England Wildflower Society. She was the treasurer of the Wendell Cultural Council from 1990 to 1992, and she was the chairperson from 1992 to 1995. She is also a life member of the Chelmsford High School Alumni Association. Her awards and citations: the Connecticut River Watershed Council Award, United States Department of Interior Award, the Massachusetts Audubon Society prestigious Chickadee Award, a Special Environmental Hero citation from Governor Salucci. I'd like to read a portion of that citation. Quote, Mason and Ina Phelps of the town of Wendell have a history of open space accomplishments going back more than 35 years. They have purchased and donated more than 2,000 acres of land to create the Whetstone Wood Wildlife Sanctuary. They are founding members of the Valley Land Fund, which has since helped to protect an additional 2,500 acres. And they have been active advisors and strong allies to all of our state agencies, working to ensure that wherever possible, state land is left in its natural condition. Her family includes her husband Mason. I give you a true environmentalist, Ina Phelps.
Thank you very much for that nice introduction. It's got quite a bit of it down here, so maybe I won't have to repeat it. I consider it a great honor to be inducted into the Chelmsford High School Alumni Association Hall of Fame. And I want to thank the Board of Directors and the Hall of Fame Committee for making it possible. I also want to thank my classmates Dick Mockery and Carol Shawcross-Grunditz for nominating me for this honor. In addition to being an honor, this induction ceremony gives me the unique opportunity to explain to all of you the purpose behind the conservation work my husband Mason and I have been doing. When we were growing up in the 1930s and 40s, almost everyone took for granted an abundance of open space and a healthy natural environment. Then in the late 1950s, we began to lose these illusions. Rachel Carson wrote Silent Spring and gave us all the unwelcome and mostly unwanted information that we were destroying our natural environment and ourselves with our use of pesticides. In addition, about this time, we had the unhappy experience of witnessing a local wildlife extinction. When we first moved to a rural part of Concord, Massachusetts in 1958, quite a few whippoorwills would gather around our screen door on warm summer nights to catch insects. We enjoyed their presence and the sound of their distinctive calls throughout the night. This continued every spring and summer for 2 or 3 years. Then 4 houses were built nearby in a new road called Whippoorwill Lane. Even though the new homes were several hundred feet away from our house, the whippoorwills disappeared forever, and the only reminder that they were ever there is the street sign, which still remains. On a somewhat brighter note, we joined the Mass Audubon Society about the same time and visited some of Audubon's many wildlife sanctuaries. We also took many of their natural history courses and field trips. All of these things came together and culminated in our desire to create a wildlife sanctuary ourselves. We're very lucky to be able to buy property in the town of Wendell, where we created Whetstone Wood. Since the land there was environmentally unspoiled and ideal for wildlife sanctuary purposes. Over the years, we were able to add more land, as George just said, mostly within the Whetstone Brook watershed. And as George said, this land was eventually donated to the Audubon Society, and at this time the Whetstone Wood contains over 2,000 acres. And as George said, in addition, we work with other individuals, nonprofit, and state environmental agencies. And as George said, one of the most interesting and important of these projects is the establishment of a permanently protected wildlife corridor, which now extends from Connecticut River almost to the Quabbin Reservoir. And recent scientific studies of biodiversity and island biogeography indicate that the potential biodiversity of such permanently protected open spaces is greater if they are joined together by permanently protected corridors than if they are allowed to become isolated from each other by future development. These studies also show that biodiversity is greater for large areas than for small ones. For these reasons, we will continue to help protect and add to these corridors and increase the size of Whetstone Wood. At first, it was a somewhat lonely struggle to protect all this land, but over the years, public concern about the environment has grown, and now people are beginning to realize the value of protecting the natural environment for both wildlife and people. We are especially encouraged that a large and important organization like the Chelmsford High School Alumni Association thinks our work is important enough to deserve recognition in its Hall of Fame. As population pressures continue to increase, every bit of unprotected land runs the increasing risk of being developed for some human use and being changed forever. There may be some wild spot which you would not like to see changed. If so, you should do everything you can now to make sure that it is permanently protected. Tomorrow may be too late. This is what we've been trying to do for almost 40 years in Wendell by creating and adding to Whetstone Wood. And I'd like to introduce you to my husband, who's sitting over there, who's the most active member of our land conservation board. I would also like to express my appreciation for the fine education I received from my dedicated teachers in grade 1 through grade 12 of the Chelmsford school system. The only change I would make, which probably has already occurred, would be give the children the opportunity to study nature and enjoy the natural world while in school. Thank you again for this wonderful honor.
James E. Rich, Jr., class of 1970, at Chelmsford High School, member of the National Honor Society, member of the Key Club, member of the varsity football team, co-captain his senior year, most improved player his senior year. He was all-conference his senior year. Member of the varsity wrestling team for all 3 years. He was undefeated in dual meets both his junior and senior years. He was a sectional champion his senior year, state champion his senior year, and a New England runner-up his senior year. During his 3 years, the wrestling team went 36-3. and were state champions his junior and senior year, and the team won the New England championship his senior year. It was a great time in wrestling. His college career. Graduated in 1974 from Colgate University, cum laude, with a Bachelor of Arts degree with a major in history. At Colgate, he was a member of the undefeated freshman football team, member of the varsity wrestling team for 4 years. He was co-captain his junior and senior years. He was an ECAC place winner and qualified for the NCAAs. He was the team's most valuable player his senior years. While there, he was awarded the Colgate War Memorial Alumni Scholarship. Graduated from Albany Law School in 1977. He was a member of the rugby team. Graduated with high honors in 1988 from the National Graduate Trust School. His professional career. Admitted to the Massachusetts Bar in 1977. Worked for the law firm of Geary and Dean in Chelmsford, and then accepted a position in the trust department of the First National Bank of Boston. From 1980 to 1982 was the trust officer of the Plymouth Home National Bank. In 1982, became the trust officer of the Beverly National Bank of Beverly, Massachusetts. Presently, he is the Vice President and Senior Trust Officer. He oversees estate planning, trust administration, and investment management of more than $200 million in investments. His civic and community involvement. Vice President, and Executive Committee member, and trustee of the Beverly School for the Deaf. He's a member of the Investment Committee of the North Shore Community College Foundation. He's a former director of the North Shore Community College Foundation. Past Executive Committee member and chairman of the Investment Committee of the North Shore United Way. Past director and member of the Beverly Rotary Club. Is a member of the Essex County Estate Planning Council. Member of the Executive Committee of the Trust Division of the Massachusetts Bankers Association, and he's a member of the Chelmsford High School Alumni Association. His family includes his wife Jacqueline, CHS class of 78, 2 daughters Sarah and Jennifer, and a son James. Great deal of pleasure, James Rich Jr.
Thank you, everybody, board of directors of the Alumni Association. When George called me to tell me that I was going to be inducted to the Hall of Fame, I said, why me? Certainly, there are many other people that are just as worthy, if not more worthy, either academically or athletically, or in community activities, or certainly professionally. The only thing I can attribute to my being selected is that I have a lot of contacts still in Chelmsford. For example, my mother was a lunch lady at Chelmsford High School for maybe 10 years, and I think she keeps large piles of food on certain critical voters. So let's just go ahead. I want to thank my mother and father, first of all, for their efforts with regard to this selection process. Just want to, I think you might, later you'll hear from Bob Smith, who graduated from Chelmsford High School in 1950. And before that, he was, we were talking about how he lived in East Chelmsford, and he went through grades, before it in kindergarten, and probably no past. But didn't when I went there either. But grades 1 through 8 went to the East School. And we came to Chelmsford in 1960, and I was in the 4th grade. And we proceeded to go to the succeeding years from the Center School in the 4th grade to the North School for a half year, and then to the South Road School for the second half of the 5th grade. We went to the East School for the 6th grade, and then we went to the McFarland School for the 7th grade, and went to the Parker School for the 8th grade, and then finally landed at what is now what was then the high school and is now the McCarthy School, thank you, George, for grades 9 through 12. Those were just buildings. I think the important thing about education, public education, is the dedication of the teachers. And the support, just as importantly as the dedication of the teachers, is the support that the teachers get from the community. Because without the support from the community, the teachers are not going to maintain the dedication. We wouldn't expect them to maintain the dedication. I think there are some teachers that are like that, but it's a two-way street. It requires the support of the community. And I found that the public education that was provided me by the Chelmsford school system was equal to any other kind of education I could receive. When I went to college, there were a lot of people that went to college with me that received very exclusive private education. And I don't think my education was second to any of theirs. So I'm very happy to say that I was a beneficiary of a what I consider a top-notch public school education, mainly attributed to the dedication of the teachers that I had. I'd like to think that during my high school and maybe my college years, I was a pretty good student who tried really hard and happened to do well in sports, mainly because I tried hard. I was blind, I still am, slow. Bruce, my brother's a lot faster than me, and very skinny. And so, to my amazement, I made the varsity team in football my junior year, and I like to think it had very little to do with my athletic abilities, but it had a lot to do with my, a lot of effort and lack of competition for the position I was playing. I remember my junior year, I was a junior, and I decided to play middle guard, and there was a muscle man sophomore who was slated to play ahead of me at that position because I was blind, slow, and skinny. But luckily, my friend who was playing ahead of me got detention and he missed practice as a result, and I got to start the following game. And that was my beginning of my varsity football career. Wrestling was another interesting problem. I played freshman football, and I was expected to play a sport in the wintertime, so I couldn't play basketball. Didn't know how to skate very well. I tried track for a week, and that was too difficult. So I said, well, what do we do? I think I'll try the wrestling team, and found myself a place there. So again, I just want to thank everybody here for attending. The money that goes to this event is going to go to the scholarships. I think it's a terrific thing that you're doing here. I want to thank my family. I'd like to thank my teachers. I'm not going to name any teachers because I was trying to write them all down, and there were just too many teachers. I don't think about my teachers as much as I should, and at the very least, this event gave me an opportunity to sit down here and try to scramble for a few words to say. Really made me think about the wonderful teachers that I had all the way through my grade school and public school, high school education. I really want to thank them all. Not only those people that are here, those that are not. I'm not going to say they did a nice job. They did a great job, and I really appreciate their dedication. That's all I have to say. I also want to thank my wife, but it's also important. When I got out of college, got out of law school, got into a career, my wife has been there all along, supporting me, even when I'm a jerk. And that happens sometimes. And my children support me, and without their support and love, life would be miserable. And I want to thank them again.
Robert F. Smith, class of 1950, at Chelmsford High School, member of the Athletic Association, member of the Junior Red Cross Club, member of the Cap and Gown Committee, member of the Car Club, did a lot of skiing, drove a race car, fixed wrecked cars to save money for college. His college career. Graduated with honors from Bentley College with a bachelor's degree in 1953. Attended General Electric's Management School in New York and its Financial Management Training Program. His professional career. Hired by General Electric in 1953. He worked in finance operations for 28 years in the following roles: Audit Administrator, Manager for Finance and Business Planning, Treasurer of GE Affiliates in Ireland, Finance Manager for European Division in Geneva, Switzerland, responsible for political foreign exchange. He returned to the United States as Group Finance Manager for International Operations. Promoted to Staff Executive for Strategic Planning and Development. Left General Electric in 1981 to become Senior Vice President and Treasurer of American Express. 6 months later, became Vice Chairman of American Express International Bank. 6 months later, became President and CEO of the American Express International Banking Corporation. Retired in 1990. In 1992, he co-founded Car Component Technologies, a company that remanufactures front-wheel drive axles in Bedford, New Hampshire. In 1997, CCT became the leader in the field, and went from 15 to 500 employees in 5 years. The business, interestingly enough, was run by 2 fathers and their sons who were friends in college. His community involvement, and I'm just going to list a few of them. He led the establishment of a scholars program at Bentley College with lead funding from American Express. The program provides full scholarships for disadvantaged students. He established a scholarship fund at St. Anselm's College to benefit students from the Lowell area. Donated and established a fund to maintain and restore a Bentley automobile for ceremonial use as a symbol of the college. Holds an annual fundraising dinner to benefit the Holy Trinity School Endowment Fund of Laconia, New Hampshire, which serves children of all denominations in the area and provides scholarship for those in need. That's just a few of them. His honors. In 1985, he became a trustee of Bentley College. In 1990, he became chairman of the board of trustees of Bentley until 1995. He is currently is a member of the Executive Business and Finance and Investment Committee at Bentley. In 1986, he was awarded an honorary Doctor of Laws degree at St. A's College. In 1997, he was awarded an honorary doctor's degree in commercial science from his alma mater, Bentley College. He's a life member of the Chelmsford High School Alumni Association. His family, just a little digression here. His mother and father and 2 brothers lived at 5 Norman S. Smith Street in East Chelmsford. This street was named in honor of Bob's brother, Norman S. Jr., who was a naval aviator who lost his life in the Philippines during World War II. He was a member of the CHS class of 41. Bob's family does include his wife Miriam, a daughter Brenda, a son Robert Jr., 3 grandchildren, Alex, Lauren, and Hannah. I just recently, yesterday, received a letter from Bentley, and I'd like to read it. Not to me, it's to Bob. Dear Bob, on behalf of the trustees, faculty, administrators, alumni, and students of Bentley College, congratulations on your induction into the Chelmsford High School Hall of Fame. We are proud to join with your high school in claiming you as an alumnus. You and your family must be very proud, and justifiably so, of this latest honor. Because I fully understand what your lifetime of achievement has meant for Bentley College, your distinguished business career, your service as trustee and chairman, your and Miriam's generous financial support, and the list goes on. I can appreciate what your success must mean to Chelmsford High. It is on the accumulated achievements of individuals that the reputations of institutions rest. We, like Chelmsford High, are grateful for the solid blocks you have laid for us. Again, congratulations. Sincerely, Joseph G. Marone, President of Bentley College. I give you Robert Smith.
Thank you, George. One thing about my career that's interesting is you notice my name starts with S. I'm last on the program. I didn't have to worry about where I was going. I was last. I could sit back and listen to everyone else's comments, and I could pick the best of them. So if you have your chance to be smart or lucky, take luck. I've heard this evening a number of people talk about the only reason they were successful, there was no competition. That is really true. We grew up, our age group, grew up when there wasn't a lot of competition. Today, the competition is fierce. I'm just glad I didn't go to Chelmsford High when the standards were as high as the principal talked about today, because I wouldn't have been here tonight. I really want to congratulate George and the entire Alumni Association for the job you've done. If you look around this room tonight, there's about 300 people here. That's tremendous for a little town of Chelmsford, Mass. When I went to high school, there was about 7,000 people in the whole town. So it's really tremendous for the support that you've got for the high school and the kids that are going through it today and so on. And I just think it's great. We talked about East School. When I graduated from East School in 1946, there were 13 kids that graduated. 3 of them are here tonight. My 2 friends over here, Dick Lever and Jerry Hunt, we started grammar school together. So there's 3 of the 13 still here. I would just like to introduce my wife that I've known my wife Miriam. And I have my daughter and her husband, and my son and his wife here, if they'd stand up just for a minute to say hi. And thanks to them, we now have 5 grandchildren, not 3. 3 was last year, 5 this year. What else is cooking? I just wanted to say that I feel that I'm extremely lucky to be here this evening. And although I've had some awards in my life, this is probably the most important one. I really appreciate it. I'm real glad to see my brother John here. He's the other Smith brother that lived on 5 Smith Street, and also the crew from Bentley College. Appreciate it very much. Thank you.
And now to close, I would like to congratulate the new members of our Hall of Fame again. Congratulations. I want to thank all of you for coming tonight. If you parked in the garage, make sure on your way out you go by the front desk and get your ticket validated so that you won't have to pay. See you all next year, right here, next March. I think the date is the 18th, even though we haven't set it. Okay? So if you got a calendar, take it out right now. March 18th, 2000. You can save me the call. Okay?